Good afternoon to all of you. I'm Hema Rai, Assistant Professor, IIMT College of Law. Today I'll discuss jurisprudence, natural law theory. First of thing, what are a school of jurisprudence? Schools of law. Thinkers think stuff. The thinkers who have similar type of thinking are put in a school of thought. Types of schools. There are many types of school, but majorly there are five schools: natural law school, historical schools, sociological school, analytical school, and realistic school. Now we will start. What is the natural law school? Our topic is a natural law. Then, what is the natural law school? In jurisprudence, natural law means rules and principles which are supposed to have originated from some supreme source other than any political or worldly authority. It symbolizes physical law of nature based on moral ideals which have universal applicability at all places and terms. It has other been used either to define a charge or the maintain status quo according to need and requirement of the time. Example, Locke used natural law as an instrument of change, but hobbies used it to maintain status quo in the society. The concept of rule of law in England and India and due process in USA are essential based on natural law. Natural law is also the law of reason as being established by that reason by which the world is governed and also as being addressed to and prescribed by the rational of natural of nature of man. It is also the universal or common law as being of universal validity, the same in all places and binding on all peoples are not one things at Athens. Lastly, in modern times, we find it termed as a moral law, as being the expression of the principle of morality. The natural law denies the possibilities of any rigid separation of the is or ought aspect of law and believes that such a separation in unnecessarily causing confusing in the field of law. The supporters of national law argue that the notion of justice, right of reason, have been drawn from the nature of man and the law of nature, and that therefore this aspect cannot be completely eliminated from the preview of law. It has generally been considered as an ideal source of law with invariant contents. What is the feature of natural law? Here we will discuss features. Natural law is a internal and unalterable as having existed from the commencement of the world, uncreated and immutable. Means we can't change of natural law. Natural law is not made by man. It is only discovered by him. Natural law is not enforced by any external agency. Natural law is not promulgated by legislation. It is an outcome of preaching of philosophers, prophets, saints, etc. And thus, in a sense, it is a higher from of law. It's made by God, it's not made by man. Natural law has no formal written code. Also, there is a neither precise penalty for its violation nor any specific reward for abiding by its rules. Natural law has an external lasting value which is immutable. Natural law is also termed as divine law, law of nature, law of God, etc. Divine law means the command of God imposed upon men. Means we can say natural law is not man made law, natural law is divine law, is God law, it's implemented by God, and etc. Now we will discuss evolution and growth of natural law. The content of natural law has varied from time to time according to the purpose for which it has been used and the function it is required to perform to suit the needs of the time and circumstances. Therefore, the evolution and development of natural law has been through various stages which may broadly be studied under the following heads: ancient period, medieval period, renaissance period, modern period. The concept of natural law was developed by Greek philosophers around 4th century BC. It was the first Greek philosopher who pointed at the three main characteristic features of law of nature. It's a Heraclitus approach. He said the concept of natural law was developed in Greek, and he said he believes in destiny, order, and reason. He started that natural the nature is not a scattered heap of things, but there is a definite relation between the things and a definite order and rhythm of events. According to him, reason is one of the essential elements of natural law. Now comes Socrates. What he said: Socrates' time was 470 to 399 BC. Socrates said that, like natural physical law, there is a natural or moral law. Human insights that a man has the capacity to distinguish between God and bad, good and bad, and is able to appreciate the moral values. This human insight is the basis of just the law. Socrates did not deny the authority of the positive law. According to him, it was rather the appeal of the insight to obey it, and perhaps that was why he preferred to drink poison in obedience of law that to run away from the prison. He pleaded for the necessity of natural law for security and stability of the country, which was one of the principal needs of the age. His pupil Plato supported the same theory, but it is in Aristotle that we find a proper and logical elaboration of the theory. Now, Aristotle came. Aristotle period started from 384 to 322 BC. According to Aristotle, man is a part of nature in two ways. He told about it's divided in two parts. Firstly, he is the part of the creatures of the God, and secondly, he possesses insight and reason by which he can shape his will. By his reason, man can discover the internal principle of justice. The man's reason being the part of the nature. The law discovered by reason is called natural justice. Positive law should try to incorporate it in itself the rules of natural law, but it should be obeyed even if it is devoid of the standard principle of natural law. The law should be reformed or amended rather than be broken. He argued that slaves must accept their lot of slavery was a nature institution, natural institution. Aristotle suggested that the ideals of natural law have emanated from the human conscience and not from human mind, and therefore they are far more valuable than the positive law, which is an outcome of the human mind. Natural law in Roman system. What is the Roman system? The Romans did not confine their study of natural law merely to theoretical discussion, but carried it further to give it a particular shape by transforming their rigid legal system into cosmopolitan living law. In this way, natural law exercised a very constructive influence on the Roman law through division of Roman law into three distinct divisions, namely jus civil, jus gentium, jus naturala. Civil law called jus civil was applicable only to Roman citizens, and the law which governed Roman citizens as well as the foreigners was known as jus gentium. Citizenship was extended to everyone except a few categories of persons. Roman lawyers did not bother themselves with the problems of conflict between positive law and natural law. Through there was a general feeling that natural law being based on reason and conscience was superior to positive law, and therefore in case of a conflict between the two the latter should be disregarded. Natural law in India, how it's developed in India. Hindu legal system is perhaps the most ancient legal system of the world. They developed a very logical and comprehensive body of law at very early times. A sense of justice pervades the whole body of law, but the frequent changes in the political system and government and numerous foreign in invasion, one after the other, prevented its systematic and natural growth. Under the foreign rule, no proper attention could be paid the study of the legal system. Many theories and principles of it are still unknown, uninvestigated. However, some principle and provision can be pointed out in this respect. According to the Hindu views, law owes its existence to God, that is given in Shruti and Smritis. The king is simply to execute that law and he himself is bound by it. And if goes against this law, he should be disobeyed. Purans are full of instances where the king were dethroned and beheaded when they went against the established law. Now we will start medieval period. Catholic philosophers, the theologians of the Middle Ages gave a new theory of natural law. Through they too gave it theological basis. They departed from the orthodoxy of early Christian fathers. Their views are more logical and systematic. Now we will start medieval age of jurisprudence, famous thinkers Thomas Aquinas. According to Thomas Aquinas, his views may be taken as representative of the new theory. His views about society are similar to that of Aristotle. Social organization and state are natural phenomena. He defined law as an ordinance of reason for the common good made by him who have the care of the community and promulgation. St. Thomas Aquinas gave the fourfold classification of laws, namely law of God or external law, natural law which is revealed through reason, divine law or the law of scriptures, human laws which we now call positive law. Natural law is a part of divine law. It is that part which which believes natural reason, like his predecessor. Saint Aquinas agreed that natural law immanent, immanent, immanence natural law is a part of divine law. It is that part which remains instinct in natural reason. This human law or positive law, therefore, must remain within the limits of that of which it is a part. It means that positive law must conform to the law of the scripture. Positive law is valid only to the extent to which it is the compatible with natural law and thus is the conformity with internal law. He regarded church as the authority to interpret divine law. Therefore, it Thomas justified possession and possession of individual properly, which was considered sinful by the early Christian father. Now Hugo came and he gave her thought. He gave thoughts. His time is 15 to 83 and 1583 to 1645. Rosius believed that howsoever bad a ruler may be, it is the duty of the subject to obey him. He has no right to repudiate the agreement or to take away the power. Although there is apparent inconsistency in the natural law propounded by Rosius, because of the one hand he says that the ruler is bound by the natural law and that the ruler is bound by the natural law, and on the other hand contends that is no case the ruler should be disobeyed, but appears that Grotius' main concern was stability of political order and maintain of international peace, which was the need of the time. Hugo is rightly considered as the founder of the modern international law, as he deduced a number of principles which paved way for further growth of international law. He propagated equality of his state and their freedom to regulate internal as well as external relations. Now came Thomas Hobbes in 1558 to 1679. According to Hobbes, prior of the social contract, man lived in chaotic condition of constant fear. The life is the state of nature was solidarity, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Therefore, in order to secure self potential and avoid misery and pain, men voluntarily entered into contract, surrounded their freedom to some mightiest authority that could protect their lives and property. Thus, Hobbes was a supporter of the absolute power of the ruler and subject had no rights against the sovereign. Through he makes a suggestion that the sovereign should be bound by the natural law. It is not a more than a moral obligation. It would thus be seen that Hobbes used natural law theory to support absolute authority of the sovereign. During the Civil War in Britain, his theory came to support the monarch. In fact, it stood for stable and secure government, individualism, materialism, utilitarian, and absolutism, all the interwoven in the theory of Hobbes. Now start Jean Rousseau. Rousseau came in 1712 to 1778. Rousseau pointed out that the social contract is not a historical fact as a contemplated by Hobbes and Locke, but it is merely a hypothetical concept. Prior to the so called social contract, the life was happy and there was equality amongst men. People united to preserve their rights of the freedom of equality, and for this purpose, they surrounded their right not to a single individual, like that is the sovereign, but the community as a whole, which Rousseau named as a general will. Therefore, it is the duty of every individual to obey the general will, because in doing so, he directly obeys his own right. Now it came Immanuel Kant. Kant came in 1724, and he had his time is 1724 to 1804. The natural law philosophy, that a doctrine of social contract, was further supported by Kant, and in 18th century they emphasized that the basic of social contract was reason and it was not a historical fact. Kant drawn a distinction between natural rights and the acquired right and recognized only the former, which were necessarily for the freedom of individual. He favored the separation of power and pointed out that the function of the state should be to protect the law. He propounded his famous theory of cat- categorical imperative in his classical work entitled Critic and Pure Reason. Kant's theory of categorical imperative was derived from the Rousseau theory of general will. It embodies his two principles. Natural law theory received a setback in the wake in 19th century. The profounder of analytical positivism, notably Bentham and Austin, rejected natural law on the ground that it was ambiguous and misleading. The doctrines propagated by Austin and Bentham completely divorce morality from law. In the 19th century, the popularity of the natural law theories suffered a decline. The natural law theories reflected more or less the general social, economic, and political changes which has taken place in Europe. Reason or rationalism was the spirit of the 18th century through a reaction against the abstract through was overdue. The problems created by the new changes and individual gave way to conflict. Modern skepticism perhaps at the there are no absolute and unchangeable principles. This method of the natural law philosopher were unacceptable in the emerging age of science. The historical researchers conclude that a social contract was a myth. All these developments shattered the very foundation of the natural law theory in 19th century. The historical and analytical approaches to the study of were more realistic and attracted jurists. They heralded, heralded the era in the field of legal through. In this changed climate of through, it became difficult for the natural law theory is survive. Therefore, through solitary voice, sorting the superiority of natural law or still heard, the 19th century was in general hostile to the natural law theory. In 20th century of natural law, towards the end of 19th century, revival of the natural law theories took place. It was due to many reasons. First reason, reaction against 19th century legal theories, which has exaggerated the importance of the positive law, was due, and theories which overemphasized Positivism failed to satisfy the aspirant of the people because of their refusal to accept morality and reason elements of law. A reaction of against 19th century legal theories which has guaranteed the importance of the positive law was due, and theories which overemphasize positive fail to satisfy the aspirations of the people because of their refusal to accept morality and reason as the elements of law. Second reason, it was realized that abstract thinking or a priori assumption were not completely fertile. Third, the impact of the materialism of the society and the changed social political condition compelled the 20th century legal thinkers took from the value oriented ideology which could prevent general moral degradation of the people. Thank you so much. We will meet in next class.